Hey y'all, I can't sleep. So I figured y'all could read a book with me, or listen to me read a book, until I'm too tired to read anymore. We'll see how this turns out. This is my first shot at this. You guys ready? Hey Apollo, hey Christine. Thanks for coming by. Okay, the name of this book is Nerves of Steel. The Sikorsky helicopter thundered through the icy February night, its blades chopping against wind gusting off the Ohio River. In the rear-facing passenger seat, Dr. Cassandra Hart swallowed hard to keep down the chili mac she'd eaten earlier. Wishing it was only motion sickness, she tugged at her safety harness. There was no room to breathe, not enough air. Motion sickness she knew how to fix. Irrational claustrophobia was another story. A curse, a weakness she'd refused to reveal, forcing her to mask her panic. The view outside Cassie's window wasn't helping. The helicopter's blades tore into the low-hanging clouds, shredding them into tattered, ghostly remnants. Rain pelted the scarred Lexan windows, ricocheting like shrapnel. Typical of Pittsburgh, a city constantly teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. A few of the buildings they passed were lit. The ones that were. God dang it, I knew that was going to happen to me. Hold on, we're going to find another one. Sorry, y'all. No, we're not actually. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change to my channel that has no commercials. There we go. That's better. Sorry, guys. That won't happen again. The ones that were, such as the Cathedral of Learning and PPG Place, stood like sentries in the dark, guarding against a pre-dawn invasion. She bit down against another wave of nausea, her pulse drumming through her ears, in time with the rotor blades. Across from her, Eddie Marcone, her flight paramedic, lounged in a seat, playing a handheld computer game, oblivious to her distress and their impending doom. A blast of wind catapulted the Sikorsky skyward. Cassie's restraints tightened against the sudden motion, squeezing against her chest. Gravity yanked them back down with a jolt strong enough to snap her jaws together. "Weather's moving in fast," Jack Allen, their pilot, said, his voice reverberating through her headset. "Might have to turn back, Doc." Turn back? Cassie rubbed her clammy palms on the legs of her Nomex flight suit. Right now, the landing pad at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Medical Center seemed like a distant nirvana, a nirvana that would have to wait. The patient they were flying to retrieve, a girl found in the frigid waters of the Ohio River, couldn't wait. 10 minutes, she told Zach, denying the fight or flight instinct raging through her, every muscle quivering with the desire to escape. "We'll scoot," rumble of the engine. "1 second late, and I swear—" Cassie ignored him as she wrenched the door open, stepped out into the night, and moved away from the rotors, ducking her head until she cleared the blades. Straightening, she turned into the westerly wind and stole a moment to breathe. "Give us a hand already," Cassie called to the policeman huddled beside their cruiser, supposedly directing traffic through the urban wasteland of deserted warehouses and road construction. Not that there was any traffic in the pre-dawn hours of a Monday morning. With the extra manpower of its engines, the helicopter righted itself, swerving away from the disaster. A few minutes later, the lights of Three Rivers Medical Center came into view. Before they could land, the shrieking of monitor alarms filled the cabin. V-fib, Cassie reached for the girl's carotid artery. No pulse. Hell, Eddie began chest compressions. Cassie charged the defibrillator. She forced air into the girl, squeezing the bag valve mask. The defibrillator buzzed, signaling its readiness. "Clear!" Cassie planted the paddles on their patient's chest. Electricity shot through the girl's chest. Nothing. She exchanged the paddles for the epinephrine and injected the heart medication into the IV. The helicopter thudded down onto the landing pad. The door slid open, and helping hands reached in to move their patient. Cassie took over chest compressions. She wove her fingers together and positioned her palms against the girl's breastbone. The wind hurtled, wasp stings of sleet against her skin. Cassie ignored it, pausing only to fling her hair out of her face with an impatient shake of her head. The breath that once restrained it was long lost, probably at the bottom of the river. "Damn it," Cassie thought in rhythm with her chest compressions. "You are not going to die. Not on my watch." Chapter 2. Detective Mickey Drake closed his eyes. The rain pounding against the dumpster lid sounded a lot like gunfire from a modified Tech 9. Not as loud as the movies made it out. Less bang, pop. Drake couldn't close his eyes. Instead, he kept them riveted on the third floor window of the East Liberty apartment building where Lester Young was rocking the night away with this woman. The wind did little to dissipate the stench of urine, rotting chicken, and sour milk that clung to the alley. Gray mist swirled past Drake in tatters, as transparent as promises from old lovers. He shifted his weight, crammed his bare hands deeper into the pockets of his navy peacoat, and tried to ignore the thud of the rain against the garbage bags overflowing with moldering, dirty diapers. The only light on the block came from the apartment's naked window and one overworked street lamp whose yellow glow struggled to make it as far as the pavement below. Yesterday was Drake's first day off in 2 weeks, but when Lisa Demo, a straight-laced prosecutor working with the Pittsburgh Police Bureau's Drug Task Force, called them to tell him she'd finally convinced her boss that they had enough probable cause to go for a warrant, he had joined in the hunt. No way he was going to let a little thing like sleep stop him from bringing in Lester Young. Drake had scoured all of the drug-dealing, murdering son of a bitch's hidey holes until about 1 in the morning. He tracked Lester to his Strawberries, Ruby Avenue apartment. Drake had been a good boy, called for backup, waited for Quan to arrive with the warrant. Lester wasn't walking on any technicality. Not this time. You need some help out there, DJ. Janet Quan's voice drilled through his earpiece. Thought you went to take a leak. That was 20 minutes ago. Her voice was good-humored, but colored with concern. Not solely concern about his well-being. Quan's concern was that he'd done something to screw up again, which was why he stood out here freezing his butt off instead of trapped inside the Intrepid with Quan and her discerning glances. Found a better vantage point, he said into his radio. I think we should go in now. Nothing's moving up there last half hour. Good time to catch them sleeping. Or with their pants down, interjected Summers from his position at the rear of the building. He sounded excited by the prospect. But then Summers was young, his gold shield so fresh it squeaked. Drake wanted Lester more than anything. Taking down Lester would be better than sex, at least better than Drake remembered sex. Last 6 months, he'd been living like one of those monks up the mountain in Laredo, all part of getting his life back together. Seeing that Lester got what he deserved was a big piece of that, but still. There's a kid in there, he told the others. With his binoculars, he could see a red jacket, too small for an adult, hanging on the back of the door. Besides, it was a backpack with iridescent green figures of the Incredible Hulk. What kid? Summer asked. Didn't see any kid. If there is a kid, Quan put in, he'll be in the rare bit we can contain him. Too risky. We wait. It'll be fucking forever, Summers muttered. Don't worry, Eric, Quan assured him. Lester's got to come out for more Viagra sooner or later. The caffeine and adrenaline jazzed Cox chuckled. Drake was silent. He waited, rain puddling under his wool pea coat, soaking his jeans and canvas high tops until he couldn't move without squishing. He watched, despite the fact that he'd been averaging less than 4 hours sleep a night, and his eyelids scratched like 50 grit sandpaper. He blinked against the sting of sleet against his face. Lester's window blurred, then refocused once more. Lester left the front bedroom and walked naked in front of the curtainless window. Yes, come on down, Drake urged. Time to play The Price is Right. Or better yet, Truth or Consequences. Because he had a little truth for good old Lester. You didn't shoot at a cop, miss him, and hit a van full of kids and walk away on a technicality without sure as hell paying the consequences. Damn. It was going to feel good to nail Lester. It was the drug dealer's third strike, and he was O-U-T. Lester stepped into his pants. Drake raised his radio. Actors getting dressed. Looked like showtime. Quan and the other team members acknowledged. Drake crept through the shadows to the end of the alley until he stood directly across from the tenement, his gaze never leaving the window. Lester reached for his shirt, his jacket. Come on. Lester jerked upright, his mouth open, calling to someone as he fumbled through his jacket pockets. Lester's Strawberry sauntered from the bedroom, wearing only an unbelted kimono. Her expression went from seductive to fearful in one quick blink. The words double cross and whore filtered down to the street. The woman was speaking rapidly, backing away. Lester struck her with an open-handed slap, and she went down. He hauled her up, shook her, hit her again. Blood flew from her nose. Lester twisted his fingers in her cornrows, drew his gun, and pointed it at her face. A little boy in Superman PJs came out of the hallway, rubbing his eyes. He saw the woman and ran over, tugged on Lester's arm, his mouth open in a scream. Drake flew across the street, pounding through the puddles, up the stairs, leading into the building. He took the slippery concrete steps two at a time, shouldered through the heavy glass door, shouting into his radio for backup. His chest was taut, his grip on his Glock sweaty as he raced up the steps to the third-floor apartment. Drake braced himself, waiting to hear a gunshot, certain that once again he was going to be too late. He might take it the wrong way, but watching Lester's lovingly stroke the chrome barrel of the one and sealed the plastic bag with its contraband inside. Ignoring her charting, she stared at her enemy. Innocent-looking, pale green pills, each with the power to destroy a life. Of course, the kids on the street never saw this in its pure form. It was already ground down, adulterated with mannitol and soda, Lord only knows what else, then repressed into tablets bearing street names like Storm and Funky Shit. One enterprising dealer had combined FX with ephedra and called his creation Kennywood after the local amusement park famous for its roller coasters. Cassie's fist tightened around the bag. She lost 3 kids to that particular variant until word got out on the street about a bad ride. After watching Richard, her ex-husband, descend in the black hole of addiction, Cassie had tried to learn everything she could about the whys and hows of drug abuse. She still couldn't understand playing Russian roulette with the product of an illicit chemist's imagination. Half the kids she treated had no idea what they actually took. Her gaze returned to Jane Doe, now dwarfed by the machines keeping her alive. Why would a beautiful girl throw her life away like that? What was she running from that was so horrible that dying became a viable option? Anger seared through her, the waste. Young kids, grown men, professionals like Richard. She clamped down on her anger and thought Richard wasn't her worry anymore. She hadn't even seen him in a year, yet somehow he continued to infiltrate her life, leaving her with unanswered questions, doubts about her own part and what happened to him, to them, fear that she was destined to repeat her mistakes. A queasy feeling, not unlike the claustrophobia she'd felt in the helicopter, churned through her. She took a deep breath, held it for a count of 5, then released it, hoping to banish her fears with it. It helped a little. She forced her attention back to the bag of drugs. Protocol called for the charge nurse to lock any drugs in the narcotics cabinet until the police arrived, but she was currently busy with morning report. Using her fingernail, Cassie traced the markings etched into the back of the FX tablets. Son of a bitch. The ward clerk glared at her, outburst an otherwise still and quiet ICU, but she ignored him. She held the bag up, scrutinizing the pills. There were 27 of them, all imprinted with 3 RMC, 3 Rivers Center. To hell with protocol, she swiveled in her chair, slamming her elbow against the counter, her anger and surprise drowning out any pain. The drugs that had almost killed Jane Doe came from right here, from Cassie's own hospital. Abandoning her paperwork, she pocketed the drugs, blamed the clock, and hurried through the doors. 7:30. Her shift was over, but Fran Weaver's was just beginning. Cassie jogged down 4 flights of stairs to the basement. Here, amid the bang and hiss of ductwork and pipes, was the concrete tunnel that led to the annex, the oldest part of the medical center. The inpatient pharmacy was temporarily housed there while their permanent facility in the main tower was being renovated and enlarged. Instead of the Bunsen burners and microscopes Cassie once used as a medical student, the black laboratory benches were now stacked with wire baskets brimming with medications. Fran Weaver sat at her computer, sorting patient orders from the night before. The pharmacy assistant looked up with one of her perennial smiles. Fran had helped Cassie several times with difficult cases, once even rushing additional drugs up to the ER after several kids had been sprayed by bullets during a drive-by shooting in East Liberty last summer. Some drug dealer aiming at a cop, the police had said. When their schedules overlapped, Fran, Cassie, and Adina Coleman, a social worker at Three Rivers, often got together. They'd gorge themselves on Primitive Brothers takeout. Fran and Adina bemoaning the Pittsburgh dating scene while Cassie kept silent, uncomfortable with the idea of letting any man back into her life. Don't tell me you're flying in this weather, Fran said. Not since around 5 this morning, Cassie perched on the edge of the desk and tossed the drugs to Fran. The halogen lamp made the pale green pills wrapped in plastic glisten like candy. There's some kind of counterfeit, right? Please tell me this shit didn't come from here. Fran whipped her head around, looking at her boss. Hush. You know Mr. Krakow hates swearing. A bonus in Cassie's mind. She didn't like Krakow. Something about the arrogant pharmacist reminded her of Richard, her ex-husband. But this morning, she had better things to focus on than pissing off Fran's boss. Just tell me where these came from. It's important. Each lot is stamped with a tracking code. Fran scrutinized the pills, cleared her computer screen. Her fingers flew over the keys. She nodded as the screen flashed with information. These are ours, from inpatient, stock received last week. Where did you get them? Every pill is accounted for, both here and on the floor. They almost killed my patient and could have gotten me and my team killed as well. Cassie explained about her Jane Doe and their harrowing helicopter ride. How did a girl living on the street get a hold of this much? And why doesn't it show up as missing in our inventory? Fran twirled a strand of blonde hair with her pinky. If she was really agitated, she would gnaw on it like a schoolgirl. If she wanted to flirt with a guy at a bar, she'd tug on it while batting her eyelashes. Cassie wished her own rambunctious hair could be half as useful as Fran's. ER, outpatient pharmacy, and same-day surgery have a different lot number. Fran's fingers resumed their race across the keys. She was clearly unhappy with what she was finding. An image of Jane Doe's frozen body, lost in the dark waters of the Ohio, flashed through Cassie's mind. You're saying someone on one of the inpatient units stole these? No, I'm not. We don't even know. The door opened, and a trim 30-something man with round, wire-rimmed glasses and an engaging smile pushed a cart inside. Fran looked up to greet the newcomer. The warmth returning to her face. Neil, how are you? Neil Sanderson. This is Cassandra Hart. She's one of our ER docs. Nice to meet you, he said, taking Cassie's hand and shaking it with a firm grip, his smile widening as he looked her straight in the eyes. Neil runs the MedMark service, Fran told Cassie. MedMark? Most of the HMOs subscribe to it, Neil explained. We provide all their patients' medications while they're in the hospital. Neil's a lifesaver, Fran said. He even found a stock of another medication for us when there was a nationwide shortage. All part of the service, Neil said with a self-depreciating shrug. He glanced at his watch. I've got some level 2 narcotics here, he gestured, and then he gestured to a locked metal box welded to the cart. You want to tell Gary? I'll get him for you. Fran left her seat to go to the pharmacy director's office. You carry narcotics also? Cassie asked. Sure, whatever the doctor orders. He rolled his cart down to the counter where the inpatient drugs were sorted by a nursing unit. Cassie watched as he efficiently began to dispose his merchandise. Maybe it wasn't someone inside the hospital responsible for the theft. Don't worry, I will.